Was it an epic or epic failure? The Big Review. Movies, games, and TV in focus.
Pulse95.
After waiting, I would say, almost a lifetime for it, 15 years in the making, the farewell movie that is the final Daniel Craig era James Bond, the 25th James Bond movie in the entire franchise, No Time to Die. This movie suffered from numerous delays, and it was because of the pandemic and because of theaters shutting down, and just that production houses felt that they wouldn't be able to really garner up enough revenue, blockbuster money because of it. And I kind of get it. It was very frustrating waiting for this film, but that still didn't stop me from the fact that I was super excited to finally get a chance to watch it in theaters. And I gotta say, one hell of a movie in my opinion. But let's start from the beginning. No Time to Die is the 5th movie in the Daniel Craig era. It's the last one for him, actually. It's a culmination of 15 years in the making. Can you believe that? 15 years of Daniel Craig. He's been doing this since 2006, since the Casino Royale. So what is No Time to Die all about? So in this movie, James Bond has left the active service and is enjoying a tranquil life in Jamaica, but his peace is short-lived when his old friend Felix from the CIA turns up asking for help. And so now the mission to rescue a kidnapped scientist turns out to be far more treacherous than expected. And so it leads James Bond onto a trail of a mysterious armed villain with a dangerous new technology. Now, what does this movie do that I personally love? I told you this before, maybe you've tuned in. I talked about James Bond has a checklist. There's a few things you gotta check off when you're watching a James Bond movie. First, James Bond. Is he worth it? Are we getting enough character growth? Are we personally getting attached and resonated with that character? Check. Do we have a Bond girl? We actually got a few Bond girls in this one. Check, check, check. Do we got a really good Bond villain? I would give it a half of a check, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Do we get those cool spycraft gadgets? Check, 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 check. And a world-scale, epic, threatening, dangerous weapon that threatens all of humanity. A big check. This is what I love about this movie. It's almost perfect. It is bittersweet as well because it's the finale in a sense. This is the last Daniel Craig era film. And what I also love about it is just the synergy of supportive characters. Since Skyfall till now, some of the supporting characters for James Bond have been Pennywise and Q, and we get a lot of them here. They feel like they're not just friends, they feel like they're a family to Bond. And one other great addition to this that I thought was going to be overbearing in my opinion would be the female James Bond, the female 007 agent that is played by Lashana Lynch. But no, she was absolutely great. And in a way, she's completely different from James Bond. She's more, where James Bond is more classy and sleek. She's more of a soldier. She does things according to orders. She's very strict and almost like studied in a sense. But that's what I like about her, is that there's this competition between James Bond and her, you know, because now she's the title of 007 and she has a lot to prove for herself. And when it comes to the villain who's played by Rami Malek, I feel like I need to talk about this later in the next segment, because I have a lot to talk about him. I've been writing all sorts of notes for the past couple of days to talk a little bit more about this film. Everything from supportive characters. There's a tendency for this movie to lean a little bit more to some of the crazier tech. If you haven't noticed, throughout the Daniel Craig movies, from Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, and now, the use of crazy technologies and crazy gadgets has been slowly and steadily being more sort of apparent in the films, and I like that because Daniel Craig's movies are very grounded and they try to be realistic. They don't want to put gadgets that are over the top or serve a plot convenience, but rather it complements the scenario. It feels like it's a believable gadget that an agent would use. And over here, they use some crazy stuff, especially when it comes to the classic car and in the action sequences in Italy. They go full out with all sorts of. It has traps. It has smoke that it releases. It uses a turret. There's also a type of watch that triggers sort of like a, what we call it creates a pulse charge. Really, really great stuff like that. That doesn't feel like it overstays its welcome. That feels like it's ruining the plot, but rather it complements the situation and the action sequences all in together. But I want to take a short break. I want to hear from you guys. Text me 4215. It's Letter Do. Have you watched No Time to Die? I want to jump into some of as much as I've been talking about the good stuff, I want to talk about some of the things that really, I don't know, just rubbed me off the wrong way, but not something that's too bad. Again, this is a bittersweet type of movie. So text me 4215. It's a lot or do. And because this is a James Bond special hour, I'm going to be playing some of the iconic James Bond soundtracks. Now we're going to be playing Adele's Skyfall, so stay tuned.
Pulse95.
Coming up next, we're going to be continuing our extensive review for the James Bond No Time to Die. Now, I've been telling you a lot about some of the supportive characters, what I think of the gadgets, what I think of the general synopsis of this movie, but what I haven't spoken about is the gorgeous action sequences. I really, really got to give kudos for them for this film. Everything about the action sequences. There's no cheap cutaways. There's no those quick sort of if you've ever watched one of those Bourne movies where they just do all these really weird cuts just to make it look like it's intense. But no, the action sequences in this movie are phenomenal. They're gorgeous. Even the places where they shot those action sequences, Norway, Italy, super up close and personal and intense. There are times where it really feels like a close call for James Bond, and that's what I love about it, is that it's almost like you can tell it feels dangerous, and that's part of the experience. I really like that about this film. And another aspect I didn't mention is one of the CIA agents who plays a sort of like a short-lived role and part of the film. It's actually by the actor. Let me find her name, Ana de Armas. Oh my God, I feel like it was done on purpose for fans of James Bond, where we have our 007 agent who's a very rigid and soldier-like character, but the Ana de Armas character, the CIA agent, feels like the perfect Bond girl for a short amount of time. She's cool, she's sleek, she's everything that's classy about the spirit of a spy movie like this. And I just wanted to give a little mention on that. I really, really liked her part. I know some people would have loved to see more of her taking advantage of her screen time, because she really left a presence. But speaking of presence, let's talk about Rami Malek's villain in this film. I'll say this: he's good. He's really good as the villain. I think they picked a perfect actor, and in a sense, I feel like he does bring in the performance for it. He does come off as menacing, as calculating, and a strategic type of villain. Somebody who probably even could outwit Daniel Craig's James Bond. But the issue is not Rami Malek. The issue is more of it's script-wise. I just feel the script doesn't give enough for the villain to do, and there's not enough backstory to really make him feel like he's a lot more grounded than he should be. And the biggest issue with this movie, as I've started to wrap it in my head, is that the world scale weapon, right, is a lot more interesting than the villain himself. It stands out more than Rami Malek's villain, who is the one enacting the world scale weapon. And this is the biggest issue with this film. I can't I can't. That's my biggest criticism. I just feel bad, that the villain is not as strong as I had expected, but still enough to serve the plot, enough to serve this farewell film for the Daniel Craig era. So, in my opinion, because this is the longest James Bond movie, I think it's still nevertheless very entertaining, but my general perception is that I really, really enjoyed this movie. It's up there with Skyfall, in my opinion, because it carries a lot of personal character growth. No Time to Die is the culmination of 15 years of spycraft drama, action, thrill, and a license to kill. And for that, I'm going to give No Time to Die a solid 9 out of 10. If you're a fan of the franchise, you're definitely going to love this farewell movie that is of the Daniel Craig era James Bond. And that is my final verdict for this movie. If you got the chance to watch it, I still want to hear from your personal critique, your own opinions about this film. Text me 4215. It's Slaughter Dude. Would always love to hear from you guys, but I got to take a short break. And coming up next, we're going to be talking about the PlayStation acquisition of PlayPoint Games. And I thought to end it off on a whole nice sort of cool note, we're going to be playing the No Time to Die official soundtrack by Billie Eilish. Enjoy.
If you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.